Hey everybody, it's Pastor Greg. It is so good to see you here in this space again. I'm excited about life and I hope that you are too. We were away last week for the holiday. I hope that your holiday was amazing, relaxing, rejuvenating, and refreshing. There's two things that I want to talk about today. First and foremost, we are still in our series, The Gift of Forgiveness, and I would love to hear from you. I want to know how forgiveness is impacting your life since you've watched this series. If you've been able to forgive someone, or most importantly, forgive yourself for things that you weren't able to do before, we would love to hear from you. So send us an email. It's right here, info@celebrationsc.org, and let us know how forgiveness is working in your life. The second thing is that next month we're going to be focusing on prosperity. The title of the series is A Prosperous Mind, and in conjunction with that series, we're going to be doing something that I think you'll absolutely enjoy. It's a way to step into prosperity in your finances that you may not have done before. It's a money game. And so if you're not already on our mailing list, please sign up and join our mailing list. You can go to Facebook and sign up, and we will send you an email, a link to join in with this game. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Imagine, what would you do if you had 48 hours to spend $1 million? How would you spend it? What would you do? How would you circulate it? The game is awesome. So again, we're in our series on the gift of forgiveness. Today is our final message. Let's get into it. Prayer, healing in our families, healing in our nation, healing us from whatever dis-ease we may be experiencing. Let there be healing. Let there be peace. Good morning, Celebration.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing?
Yeah.
Good. It's so good to see you. It feels like we take 1 week off, and it feels like it was 2 or 3. I missed y'all. You all are looking wonderful, and I'm excited to be here and to close out this series. Now, just to go back, we'll go back. Week 1, where did we start? Deconstructing forgiveness. There's a recognition that we had to sort of break down what forgiveness is and what our old ideas might have been about forgiveness first before we could really get into it. And one of the things I shared was that forgiveness is actually for you. It's never about the person, right? It's never about the person who did the thing. It's actually for you. Forgiveness frees you, opens up your life so that you can be, do, or have whatever you want. It's a success principle. I also talked about the principle of polarity, that actually life, everything in life has 2 poles. And so forgiveness and unforgiveness are really the same thing. They're just on opposite ends of the pole, and that's important because if they lived in different spaces or different places, you could never move from unforgiveness to forgiveness. And then we talked about the fact that the tendency of nature is always toward the positive pole. So you have this support, you have this beautiful wind that's pushing your sails into practicing forgiveness. In week 2, God does not forgive. We looked at this wonderful lesson from A Course in Miracles that says that God doesn't forgive because God doesn't condemn. God is not judging you. Never has, never will, right? God is not throwing you in hell. Never has, never will, right? But what happens is that we've projected our own judgment onto an unconditionally loving God. And then we think that that's who God is, that God is waving his or her finger down on us, looking at us, judging us for our mistakes. But that's not the case. And so when we understand that, then we can actually move into forgiveness and live from a place of freedom. Now, in week 3, Pastor Iyanla wore us out. She wore us out with "Don't get it twisted." Let's understand what forgiveness really is, because see, A Course in Miracles takes it even a step further. Not only does it tell us that God does not forgive because God does not condemn, but it says that forgiveness is actually the recognition that nothing was ever done wrong. Because we recognize, as Pastor Iyanla said so powerfully, you are not the event. See, so often we stand in that judgment and we stand in that unforgiveness because we're identifying with the event, the thing that happened. We think that's who and what we are. We think that we were actually destroyed, broken, or hurt. You're not the event. And as soon as you can see it from that place, then all of a sudden the voice of love can show up. Then all of a sudden you can begin to forgive and heal. So as Pastor Iyanla over the past weeks or so and I were thinking about this series, we were like, wow, this series has been powerful, it's been impactful, and we're hearing from each and every one of you in different ways, and we're seeing how it's impacting your life. And, you know, we preached another series on forgiveness in 2013. I think it was September of 2013. And that was a nice series too. But this series, this month, has just, it has a power that is just unprecedented. And so as I thought about that, and thought about the fact that we're looking at forgiveness from every angle, and even as we do this review, it feels powerful to go back to it again. I recognize that now it's time to make a decision, right? We went from deconstructing forgiveness to God does not forgive to don't get it twisted. You have a lot of information now, right? You understand and you see forgiveness from a different place. It's time for us to make a decision. A decision first maybe to forgive ourselves. Yes, yes. Or it may be time to make a decision to forgive your lover or your partner. It may be time to make a decision to forgive your boss or your manager. It may be time to forgive someone in your family, your mother, your father, your sister, your brother. It's time to make a decision because we have all this information now. We've looked at it from all these different angles because what I recognize is that what we're really talking about when we're talking about forgiveness as we're making a decision or a choice, we're choosing between heaven, which is love, or hell, which is fear. When we choose unforgiveness, we're following the voice of fear and creating hell in our lives. But when we choose forgiveness, we're following the voice of love and we're creating heaven in our lives. But even as I say that it's time for us to make a decision, I actually don't believe you have a choice. The truth is really you don't have a choice. And why do I say that? Well, it took me to a lesson in A Course in Miracles, lesson 138. And it says something interesting. It says, heaven is a decision I must make. I love that it doesn't leave any room. It's basically saying, you ain't got no choice. Heaven is a decision I must make. Not I might make, not I could make, not I may make a few years down the line once I've let that person suffer a little while longer. It says heaven is a decision I must make. Now, let's go into the lesson a little bit. There's a couple nuggets here that I want to make sure we highlight. Now, one of the first things it says in that lesson, it says that creation knows no opposite. But here is opposition part of being real. And so what is it saying here? This is why I say we don't have a choice. Creation knows no opposite. Good knows no opposite. There is nothing in opposition to the good that God is. There is nothing actually in opposition to love, which is unconditional. This is why you don't have a choice. See, we think that when we're standing in unforgiveness, that we're making a choice, that we're choosing something that's real. Unforgiveness is not real because the good that is the good that created the universe, that created you, and that is the good that God is, knows no opposite. See, we talked about it in the previous week. Pastor Iyanla talked about it, that we're healing an illusion. That's what we're doing when we move into forgiveness. We're healing an illusion. We're healing that idea of separation. And so we recognize that creation knows no opposite. But here in this world, that part of opposition seems real. Here in this world is where we feel that we're making a choice. But we're really only choosing what is real, what always was. Again, as we talked about that idea that the tendency of nature is always towards the positive pole. That's the way life is always moving. That's the way life is always expanding. That's the way life is always growing. So you're really not making a choice. You're just getting in the boat where life is flowing. That's what we're doing when we say we're forgiving. Now, in the lesson, it goes a little deeper. It says this. You need to be reminded that you think 1,000 choices are confronting you when there is really only one to make. And even this but seems to be a choice. Do not confuse yourself with all the doubts that myriad decisions would induce. You make but one. When that one is made, you will perceive it was no choice at all. For the truth is true and nothing else is real. There is no opposite to choose instead. There is no contradiction to the truth. And why do we say this? I want to go back to this idea of the two poles, because, see, we have to understand what happens, and Abraham talks about it this way, that there's a stream of well-being. There's a stream of good that's always flowing, right? It's always seeking to express itself in, through, and as your life. But the question immediately becomes, okay, well, if that's true, right? If there's no opposite to creation, if there's really only good and only good, why am I not experiencing good and only good in my life right now? Pastor Greg, that can't be true because the situation I experienced yesterday, that says differently. What is going on? Well, what happens is because that is the tendency of life, because life is always flowing in the direction of good, if, for instance, if I was trying to move in one direction and you jumped in front of me, what would happen? There would be a collision, there would be a crash, there would be pain of some sort. Yes, yes? And so what begins to happen in our lives is that there's a tendency that's moving towards good, but we block that good with our own thoughts, with our thoughts of unworthiness, with our limiting beliefs, and it creates a collision or the pain that you're experiencing in your life. It's not that good, that the bad that you're experiencing is real. The bad is only an indication that you are standing in opposition to good, that you are thinking in opposition to good, that you are believing in opposition to good. And why is that good news? Because you can change any thought. You can change any belief. What we know to be absolutely true is that a belief is just a thought that we keep thinking. That's all. It's not finite, it's not solid, it is absolutely changeable, no matter what it is. Your mother may have believed something down through the years, and she taught you the same thing. Okay, it's just a belief. Because see, if beliefs were fixed, we wouldn't have airplanes right now. Right? If beliefs were fixed, we would not be able to communicate in the ways we do through phones or radio or television. I love the story thinking about Tesla. When he came to his friends and said, I've discovered a way for us to communicate and send messages without wires, his friends had him committed. Because nobody believed that that was possible. They thought he was crazy. But his belief created what we now accept to be true. All of us were born in a time when that was just what was normal, right? But it initially had to be a belief that Tesla believed something to be true, even if nobody else believed it, and so it came into being. So this is why we say the beliefs, there's nothing fixed. There's absolutely nothing fixed in terms of beliefs. You can change that belief, and it's important when we understand that there's the stream of well-being, the stream of good that's always flowing, and we're just either flowing with it or flowing in opposition to it, and that's again why I say we don't have a choice. Do you want to continue to live your life as a series of collisions, a series of crashes? Or do you want to just get in the boat that's flowing to good, flowing to everything you want? The life that you absolutely want, that you may not even tell people about. That life of success, that life of abundance, that life of prosperity, that life of well-being, that life of ease, that life of peace, that life of joy that is unconditional. It doesn't matter what's actually happening on that day, you're still in joy. It doesn't matter what your mother said or your partner said that day, you're still in joy. That's where we can move to when we move into the place of forgiveness. Now, there's one other nugget that I want to take from this lesson. It says here that choosing depends on learning, but the truth cannot be learned, but only recognized. In recognition, its acceptance lies, and as it is accepted, it is known. So again, I say we don't have a choice, right? There's really nothing for us to learn, but what the Course is saying here is that we're not learning anything, we're recognizing it. And I love that, because I love that word. Recognize, recognize. If we go into the root of that word, it means to resume. One of the original definitions was possession of land, resume possession of land, or to know again, to identify. Because what we know to be true is, right, that you've heard it said there's nothing new under the sun, right? What's absolutely true is that everything that you need to know already exists within you. So even as we're talking about this idea of forgiveness and standing in forgiveness, and I say that you don't have a choice, why? Because you already know it. You're only recognizing what is true, recognizing, remembering again, knowing again what you have always known for eons and eons and eons and eons, because you're a limitless eternal being, right? And we come here to this plane and we forget a few things, right? We come here to this plane because the conditions are a little different. You know, you may have been born in different circumstances the last time and it was easier to know it. But this time you wanted to challenge yourself. I love to think about this because often we think that seems silly, right? Like, why would I challenge myself? Why would I make my life hard? Now, y'all know, because I use these examples a lot, I love video games. And one of the things I love about video games is that after I beat a game, what do? You go back and play it again, but now you put it on a harder setting, right? I do that all the time. We do that in our own lives now. Oh, well, let me challenge myself in a different way. You know, this time, let me not get all the power-ups and see if I can still get through the game. We do that in this life now. Well, you as your soul, eternal, invincible, knowing that you bad self, did the same thing when you came into this realm, right? So don't think it's crazy or strange. Just recognize that you have to recognize. Remember what you already know. And as soon as you remember it, it all gets easy again. It's like a flip of a switch. But I love what the Course here says. Choosing depends on learning, but the truth cannot be learned, only recognized. Now, I do have actually one more piece from here that I must share. It says here in this lesson, it says that heaven is chosen consciously. The choice cannot be made until alternatives are accurately seen and understood. All that is veiled in shadows must be raised to understanding to be judged again, this time with heaven's help. And all mistakes in judgment which the mind had made before are open to correction as the truth dismisses them as causeless. They are now without effects. They cannot be concealed because their nothingness is recognized. Now this is important because as we have gone through this series and as we have gone through this month, what I hope is happening for you is that now you are holding those circumstances, those situations, those experiences up to a different light. And we've talked about the fact that you're not doing this on your own, and you must understand that, right? That when you're looking at this situation, how can I forgive this person who did something that was so horrible? How can I forgive this person who did this thing 10 times after I forgave them the first nine times, right? How can I do this? Well, you recognize that there's a strength within you that is actually doing the forgiveness. It's the voice of love. It's the voice of God. It's heaven. Call it what you want. Right? But you recognize that it's that strength, it's that thing within you that's actually doing the forgiveness. And then you recognize that the thing that happened, the event that happened, here it says that it's causeless, that they are now without effects. Because as A Course in Miracles teaches us, we apply meaning to everything that happens in our life. We think it's so automatic that we don't realize that we're doing it. Right? This is why you can have two people on the same corner witnessing an accident and they tell it differently. Right? You would think that they were both there at the same time. They would have to be able to tell the same story. No, because we all put meaning on the story in different ways. One person may defend the driver. The other person may defend the person that was walking down the street. Yeah, well, that driver saw her, right? And the other person said, no, the woman ran out in the middle of the street. She saw the car. Same event. Two different people, because they're both applying different meanings, more than likely projecting their own point of view in terms of who they think is right or wrong onto the story. So we recognize that if we're applying the meaning to it, when we bring the light of forgiveness to it, all of a sudden the meaning that we originally applied to it begins to get stripped away. And then love shows up, because then we can see that, as A Course in Miracles teaches us, right, that every act of fear is simply a call for love. In the text, it says, even further, it says that if you knew your brother or sister was asking for help, would you deny them help? But so often, we don't realize that when that person cusses us out, what they're really saying is, I don't love myself, I forgot what love is, and in this moment, I'm not in my right mind, and I'm operating from that place. Please help me. Your love in this moment would actually shift me back to my right mind, to my right self. But see, we got to allow heaven's help here. We got to allow the light of love here to then see these things as causeless. That, yeah, this person wasn't being deliberately malicious. This person forgot who in the hell they were. That's all. But I get to be heaven in their life. I get to bring heaven to their life. Right? So still I say, you have no choice. You don't really have a choice. That this choice is right here. You're either choosing to stand in opposition of your good or to flow with your good. But still, I recognize that for many, you may be thinking about certain events in your life and you're saying, you know, Pastor Greg, this spiritual stuff, Course in Miracles, it all sounds good, but you don't understand what actually happened. You don't understand that I was abandoned. You don't understand that I was molested, that I was raped. You don't understand that I was lied on. You don't understand that because I was lied on, that affected so many other areas of my life. You don't understand that what that person did cost me my job. You don't understand, Pastor Greg, see, because I understand that these things are real, right? We're talking about real, felt life experiences. But the reason why I still say that you don't have a choice is because of how change, positive change, actually works. And I was able to read this book this week. This is kind of an aside, but starting tomorrow, I'm reading a book a day. And if you want to know more about it, I can just see me later. And so what I did as a challenge to myself, I read this book just this week that's been sitting on my shelf, my digital shelf on my Kindle, called Change or Die by Alan Deutschman. And he proposes something very interesting, because what he talks about in this book, he says that when human beings, adult human beings are given a proposal, now it could be it could be criminals. He talks about criminals. He talks about auto workers as an example. He also uses heart patients as an example. When a doctor says to a patient, you've had several heart attacks, if you don't change your life, if you don't change your lifestyle, you're going to die. Now, we would think that anybody that gets that information, oh, yeah, I would change. I would start eating salads and, I would put down the steaks and the burgers and, I would take my cholesterol pills, whatever I have to do because I don't want to die. You would think that that would be true. But the statistics say something different. It says that 9 out of 10 people don't change. When you're presented, whatever the situation is, if that dire, that if you don't make changes, you will die, most people still won't make the change. Right? Think about your own life for a second. Think about changes that you need to make in your life that on some level have dire consequences. But have you made them? Interesting, right? But what he offers in this book, there is hope. What he offers in this book is that there are 3 keys in order for change to actually happen. And the reason why I say that all of you here in this space and that may be watching us, why you don't have a choice is because you actually have everything you need to be supported in making positive changes. So he offers 3 keys. Now, the first key is that in order to be able to make change, you have to have what he calls the relate portion. And what does that mean? He says that in the first key, you form a new emotional relationship with a person or community that inspires and sustains hope. Well, you all are sitting right here in Celebration Spiritual Center. It is a community that inspires and sustains hope. Every week, we're telling you, we're reminding you, whether it's through music, whether it's through the messages, whether it's through our weekly emails, that you are bigger than your problems or circumstances. We stand here as inspirers, as uplifters, as those who are seeking to empower you to make change in your life. That's the first thing that you need to make change. See, it's not about fear, and A Course in Miracles teaches this. We think that if we scare somebody, then they'll make change, right? If we tell them you're going to die, then you'll change. No, you got to inspire them. You got to tell them that they're bigger, that they're greater. You have to remind them that they're unlimited. You have to remind them that they're invincible. You have to remind them that emotions are temporary and this too shall pass. So what's the second key? The second key is called repeat. The new relationship helps you learn, practice, and master the new habits and skills that you'll need. Well, again, this is what we provide here at Celebration Spiritual Center. It's a place to practice what you're learning. It's a place to, if you come each and every week, if you watch the messages each and every week, it's going to start to build up something within you. It's going to start to build up an awareness within you. And eventually you will begin to walk through your life differently, and you look back and you don't really realize what the one thing was that did it, but it was the accumulation of the repetition. It was the accumulation of the habit of being in this space, in this consciousness. This is why we come here every week. This is why I'm here. I don't know about everybody else. This is why I'm here, because I need this. I recognize that when I get out of this vibration, I get out into another mind. But I got to stay here. I got to stay here with community. I have to relate. I have to stay here in community. I have to repeat to myself each and every morning. I make a decision to live from this place. And finally, the third key, he says that we have to reframe. The new relationship helps you learn new ways of thinking about your situation and about life. And that's what we're doing here. With this series on forgiveness, we're providing new ways of thinking, another way to look at forgiveness that you may not have looked at before, another way of seeing forgiveness that you may not have seen it before. And this is how we affect positive change. And that's why I say you don't have a choice. Because I see each and every one of you here faithfully. I know that so many of you, you're watching the messages when you're not here. And because of that, that's what's allowing you to make positive changes. That's what will and is allowing you to forgive whomever it is you need to forgive. Start with yourself. And so in this moment, I encourage you to just think about one thing. Because I know self-forgiveness sometimes is the hardest thing. Sometimes because we think that forgiveness is a good or moral or nice thing to do, we can forgive others easily and quickly, you know? But how many people beat themselves up? In Pastor Yolanda's class, 50 Days of Fearless Living, she's using this tool, put down the hammer. How many people pick up the hammer, beating themselves up, blaming themselves for something that they did or didn't do? If I had thought differently, if I hadn't gone down that street, if I hadn't done this thing or that thing, everything would be all right. And so you keep yourselves in resistance to your own good. We start with self-forgiveness. And what I love in the Course in Miracles, it teaches us that whether you're forgiving yourself or another, you're always really giving yourself the gift. You're really always forgiving yourself because we're all connected, right? We're all connected. One body. If I do something related to my hand, my whole body benefits. If my hand was broken or hurting, if I heal it, my entire body benefits from having a functional hand. Yes, yes? And so whether you're forgiving someone outside of you or yourself, we all benefit. So I'm going to ask everybody to stand in this moment. And again, before we pray, I want you to, you can play. I want you to think about that thing, maybe that thing that you haven't forgiven yourself for. And just sit with it for a second. Whatever it may be. Could be related to your health. We talked about that, you know. You know what you should or should not be doing related to your health, but maybe you're not doing it. And you've been beating yourself up over it. And that's just causing more problems. That's causing more resistance in your life. Forgive yourself for that right now. Maybe you're like I was for so long, where I would make financial decisions that were not in my best interest. And I would make these choices over and over again, beating myself up. But as soon as I moved into this place of forgiveness, as soon as I allowed that space, then my financial life began to change. Then the choices and decisions that I made began to change because I was living and operating from a place of love. Self-forgiveness. You chose the same lover or partner again. Forgive yourself right now. Don't beat yourself up. Again, as Pastor Iyanla said, put down the hammer. Put it down. Now, I encourage you to put your hand on your heart here and now in this moment. And say, I forgive myself. And I let myself go free. Say it again. I forgive myself. And I let myself go free. Now I want you to speak to yourself by name. So if it was me saying it, I would say, Greg, I forgive you and I let you go free. Speak directly to yourself by saying your name. One more time. Speak it to yourself. I let myself go free. Self-forgiveness. Oh, doesn't it feel good, y'all? So you don't have a choice. Look, you just stepped right into the stream of well-being. You don't have a choice. Feeling good is the natural order of life. Feeling joy is the natural way of life. Feeling peace, feeling ease is the natural way of life. But now for many of you, there's someone else. There's some other circumstance. There's some other person or thing that you've been holding unforgiveness about. Call that to mind right now. And feel it. Sit with it. All of the thoughts that you've had about that person, of what he or she did or did not do. What he or she should have done or could have done and didn't do. Now I want you to say to them, I forgive you and I let you go free. Say it together. I forgive you and I let you go free. Seemed like that was a little difficult. So we're going to just take a breath together. Take a breath in and release. And as we hold that person in mind, speak directly to them and say it again. I forgive you, and I let you go free. Now, for those that are courageous in the building, you can speak their name within yourself or out loud and say it again. Tell that person in this space, because just recognize that we're all connected right now. Whether that person is living or dead, whether that person lives in this state or somewhere else, it does not matter. If you speak it right here and right now, that energy will be felt. The healing will happen within you and within them. Again, speak it out. I forgive you. And I let you go free. Mother, Father, God, we have created this space of love because we know that forgiveness is simply love in operation, unconditional love, true love, not the syrupy, sweet, conditional love of you do this and then I love you, you don't do this and I don't love you. We've created this beautiful field of love. And we know that in the field of love, there is possibility. In the field of love, there are miracles. In the field of love, we can have whatever we want. In the field of love, we can be whatever we want. In the field of love, we can do whatever we want. And so we are grateful that we have the mind and know how to create the space to call forth whatever we want. As we have now jumped into the stream of well-being, we release all unforgiveness here and now. It no longer has any operation or control in our lives. As we step into the stream of well-being, we release the hurt, we release the shame, we release the pain, and we are free. We release the hurt, we release the shame, and we are free. And as we stand in this new place in awareness of freedom, we realize that nothing is impossible. As we stand in this new place of freedom, we realize that indeed we can live from a new place in our lives. We realize that we indeed can have the relationship that we desired. We realize now that we can have the health that we desire and the wellness that we desire. We realize that we now can start the business that we want to start. We realize that we now can have the career that we've been desiring. We realize that we now can have the financial success that we desire to have. We realize that all things are possible in the field of love. As we stand in this field of love, I dare any one of you to speak out and call out what you want, because it is here now. As we stand in this field of love, I dare anybody to call forth and say what you want. Reach out and grab it. It is here now in this field of unconditional love. The field of unconditional love is God. This is how God sees you. This is how God feels about you. This is what God is looking through as it looks at you. Yes. Oh my God. It is looking through this field. It is looking through this love. It is looking through this joy. It is looking through this peace. And as this field is here, we choose to take it with us, recognizing that it is not unique to this space or this place, but it is unique to us, as we are the very temples of the living God. We are the very temples of love itself, unconditional love. And so as we take it with us throughout our week, we bless each and every person that we encounter. We bless those that we used to curse. We forgive those that we used to live in unforgiveness around. And most importantly, we operate in forgiveness for self. Now that we are free, we shall never put the chains on again. Now that we are free, we shall never put the chains on again. And we will remind our brothers and sisters that they too are free by showing them our broken chains. And so we release these words now with confidence and expectation, knowing that everything we speak must come forward, must come back to us easily and effortlessly. And so to that we say amen, amen. Ashe. And so it is. Thank you, God. Oh, my God. Thank you, God.